back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yeah!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going through.
Yes! Oh, my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And ladies and gentlemen, our Philadelphia Union are moving on to the semifinals against the Portland Timbers or New York City FC. That's a game I'm sure a lot of you guys will be paying attention to later tonight. But joining me today are two guys that have been on the podcast on numerous occasions, and I'm super excited to have them on the podcast this time to not do a trivia show, not to do a quiz show, whatever I called it. We're actually going to talk about a game. So I'd like to welcome back onto the podcast Mr. Ed Fagan and Mr. Rich Lori. How are you guys doing? How have you guys been?
Well, good.
Real good. Yeah, doing good. It's nice to be back without the pressure of the ticking clock and formidable competition.
Yeah, I'm still riding the high of the game last night. It was just crazy. That first half was just completely crazy.
Dude, I mean, all Philadelphia Union fans listening, I'm sure, are riding on that high and everything. Because let's face it, guys, we've got a great team and everything. And I'll get into Blunder of the week later on the episode and everything that kind of ties into just everybody being on a high and everything, or a certain amount of people not being on a high. So there's a spoiler alert. Get your head rolling and everything, get you guys thinking. But before we get into today's topics and everything, I want to remind you guys about the 2020 Philadelphia Union jersey giveaway. So you guys have a couple ways to enter. First, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Search The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. Show a screenshot of your review. That gets you 2 entries. Tag a friend on the post. That's 1 entry. Retweet this post. That's another entry. There is 3 rules, and those rules are only a max of 4 entries per person. The winner has 24 hours to claim his or her prize after the drawing. If the 24 hours pass without the winner claiming the prize, then we'll draw a new winner. And to be eligible for the jersey, you have to be following the Twitter account at FreeKickPod. Again, like I've been saying, the giveaway's been going from July 9th. It ends August 9th. So you guys have 1 more week to get in those entries if you have not yet. I appreciate all you guys who have entered and everything. And when we draw, good luck to you guys. But I want to know, you guys, when you guys won the quiz tournament and everything, you both mentioned big soccer a lot during those episodes. And I want to know, if big soccer was still as big as it was back in the day when you guys were on there, how would they be reacting to the success of this team early on?
Same as Twitter, Union Twitter, disbelief, stunned, like excitement. It was very similar to Union Twitter if you follow carefully. It's a lot of the same people, in fact. And I just can't believe it. I'm kind of stunned by the whole thing. And I got to pinch myself and can't believe that our Union that we used to just like spend a lot of frustrating hours on big soccer lamenting are one of the best teams in the league and the envy of many, many fan bases. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I remember, I don't really go on big soccer much anymore, but a work morning after that game, I wouldn't go on that night, but it would be just you could judge the game by the amount of pages the match thread would have, and that game, and a lot of people would just throw pictures up there, just a crazy reaction picture. So that match thread page, it would just go to 20 pages, and I'd spend half my work morning just going through that and responding and quoting stuff. It's pretty fun, but yeah, now it's just I just do Twitter, and it's kind of the same. It's a lot of the same people, as Rich said. It's a little bit more live. I'm not going to read big soccer during the game, but I'll check my phone a little bit here and there on Twitter during the game.
Yeah, I try to tweet as much as I can and everything, but you're watching the game and everything, you're trying to pay attention to the game and everything, so it's you don't want to pay attention to your phone because you'll miss something super fast. I think the Union's 2 goals between Montero and Sergio Santos, I think it was between 2 minutes, those 2 goals, which that's enough for you to just be on your phone, just scrolling and everything, and you would have missed Sergio's great goal that he scored and everything, but yeah, I agree with you guys. Twitter is where it's at and everything. Occasionally I'll go on Reddit and everything, but it's not it's not popping on there. It's definitely, if you want to get into Union soccer and see what it's all about, definitely check out Twitter. I mean, it has its good days, it has its bad, but throughout this whole season, it's been good. So nothing to complain about really for anybody. But before we talk about the game, get you guys' thoughts, anything you guys want to bring up. I just want to bring up one thing, one bit of news. So let's go straight into the news. All right, so I said this last week on the podcast and everything, talking about Brenden Aaronson, Mark McKenzie being linked to European teams and everything. Well, according to Manuel Veth, I hope I'm saying that last name correctly, of transfermarket.com, he did some reporting with Jonathan Tannenwald of Philadelphia Inquiry, and he wrote on transfermarket.us's website, said, sources have told the well-informed Philadelphia Inquiry the Union are looking for far more than the $1.25 million floated by The Record, which is a newspaper over in the United Kingdom. The part that Manuel announced on his own, he said, Transfer Market has learned that while there are concerns over McKenzie's height, several European clubs are tracking the player and are willing to pay more than the reported $1.25 million record fee that was reported last week, or I forget when it was reported, a couple of weeks ago by this newspaper over in the United Kingdom. So, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Just seeing Brenden Aaronson, Mark McKenzie linked with moves every year to Europe and everything. You guys think that after the end of the season, they'll both be gone? Do you think they'll hold on to these guys for another season? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they lowball. I think Celtic kind of lowballed that, and I think they're trying to get the COVID discount a little bit. I mean, the Union's starting both of these guys every game. They're not going to give away two guys that contribute every game for what they see as next to nothing. That said, Celtic isn't going to be only bid on McKenzie. There's half of the Bundesliga is in on Aaronson, so who knows where that number's at. But I think for McKenzie, they're going to push for more than $1.25 million from Celtic, and part of that's going to be sell-on percentages and stuff like that. But it shows that they're hardballing. They're not just going to give these guys away.
Absolutely, Rich.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the fact that they have Jack Elliott signed to that new deal, it really helps. And they have Glesnes, that helps. So I agree with that. They're not just going to take any offer, but it's been clear that from anybody from the team you talk to, that's a goal of theirs to sell a player. Now, they're not going to give the player away, but they're not going to blow a chance at achieving that goal over, $500,000. So my guess is that they're both gone. Now, obviously, Aaronson's going to go for more.
Yeah, absolutely. Attacking players always go for a lot more than defenders. And that pass that Aaronson played, I know we'll get into it and everything, but yeah, you might want to add European teams another $1 million to whatever you guys are offering the Union, because I mean, just what a beautiful move that Aaronson did to just set up that goal and everything, the pass to find Sergio. I mean, we'll definitely get into it and everything, but the one thing I said last week is for Aaronson, honestly, like you said, Ed, probably COVID is going to affect both of these transfers and everything. And both of these players are going to get a sell-on clause. There's no way that Ernst Tenner says, oh, yeah, just give me a couple million and then I won't add a sell-on clause. Because, look, when they go to Europe and everything, that's not going to be their final destination. They're going to not go into a big club. They're just going to be at that club for a couple seasons just to get their feet wet in European soccer. And if they do well at the first club they're at, then they're going to get sold for even more money. And then whether it's 10%, 15%, like I said, I want for Brenden Aaronson, which I think most teams are probably going to say 10% as much as we're willing to go, which is fair and everything. But it's like, okay, once these players get sold and everything, that's not going to be the only club they're at. So the selling clause is going to be key and everything. And, I brought up the fact that, if the Union hold on to these guys for another season, there's a chance that their fee goes up even more. But then there's also the risk, that an injury happens or these guys just take a step backwards and everything. And some teams in Europe just stay away from that because they're like, oh, well, you guys are one-hit wonders and everything. We don't want to mess with that and everything. So, there is a lot going into this and everything. And I think Ernst Tenner has a tough job on his hand, but I do think both of these guys are going to stay for the rest of the season. And then once that transfer market in the winter opens up for European clubs, I think that's when Brenden and Mark McKenzie will both go. But, we just got to enjoy these guys while we have them.
Yeah, and I'm excited to follow their careers after they leave here. I know there's a sentiment on Twitter today about why bother? Why would you want them to sell our good players? And I totally understand that. I totally get that. But it's just the nature of the beast. I mean, that's how it works. It's just like with a minor league baseball team. You have a good prospect, he's going to go up to the bigs. It's just going to happen. And we are not the bigs in soccer. We're just not. So fortunately, we have somebody like Blake who, for several reasons, really wasn't able so far to move up. So we've been able to have a very good MLS goalkeeper who's not quite good enough to get the money to go overseas. So, that's like the best side of the guy that doesn't progress. But we have young prospects like McKenzie and Aaronson, and they're definitely not going to be the last. The way our academy's set up, that's going to fuel us to be able to buy another number 10 while the other Aaronson's coming up. Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm seeing the plan that we were hearing about so long. I'm seeing the full fruition of that plan. And for so many, maybe a little bit before your time, Todd, we had like several 5-year plans. It was like we were kind of constantly restarting. It was like, dude, we're only 6 years in. How have we had 3 5-year plans already? But we're actually now seeing like the Ernst Tanner years, and actually really going back to the Ernie Stewart years, we're actually seeing what they talked about actually happening. Now, their messaging really stunk back then, in my opinion, because they always talked about the goal was to get national team players. And as a Union fan, a losing Union team, we were like, what the hell? Like, we're supposed to try to win the league. That's the purpose. Win the league is the purpose, not provide players to the national team. Now they got the priority straight to have a good team, and that will then produce players for the national team. So the goal was switched. Yeah, you can do both. If it works, you can do both. And I think that's what I'm excited about. But in order for that to come to full fruition, we have to sell these guys. And that's what I think some people are maybe have a little difficulty understanding that. But.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about selling too, because MLS, I think it was last year or the year prior, they changed the rule where, teams, when they sell homegrown players, the team gets all of that money and everything. And I think it was at the beginning of this year, they changed the rule for Kai Wagner, I'll use him as an example, where, if you were selling a player you bought from Europe or something, some of that money goes to the league as a whole and everything, but now the clubs get a little bit more of that money. But the reason I brought up like Brenden Aaronson and Mark McKenzie, because they're homegrown guys, so whatever transfer fee the Union get, they can't use all that money to go and buy a new player. Some of it has to go back into the academy and everything. They do get all the money for the club itself, but like if the Union get $2.5 million for Aaronson, they can't go and spend that $2.5 million on another player and everything. They can use some of it, but not all of it, which, I don't know how much of a fan I am of that and everything, but the good thing is the Union do see all that money. So once they sell Brenden or Mark McKenzie, all that money is coming straight into the club. It's not going to the league for the league to spread out and everything. It's all coming back to the Union, which is so key.
Yes. Also, though, the thing about that is, so that's just more money into, like they've always talked about, we have this allotted money for operations, which is player salaries, staff, facilities, all that is a figure. Now, there's players in the league that cost more than our entire operating budget.
Yep. So
more money into that budget. Yeah, we'll have to disperse the money various different ways, but still, that pool becomes bigger. It's going to be. I'm excited for that.
It's a selling point for their academy. It becomes a selling point for their academy. They can go to these young prodigy level kind of kids and go, hey, look what Mark McKenzie and Brenden Aaronson came through here. So if you want to play in Europe, you're going to want to come through here, especially if you're a local or whatever. And they have claim to those players. They become homegrown players instead of having to go into a draft pool or like that returning allocation thing with the national league players.
And it just happened with Nate Harriel, who the Union just signed, starting into effect next season, where he signs a homegrown deal with the team and everything. He came from Florida, went into the academy for 6 months and everything, and impressed so well and everything. So not only are they getting the best local kids, but they're starting to get kids from around the country and everything. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because I look at Kai Wagner, Jamir Montero, where these guys didn't have the best of careers over in Europe and everything, but they come over here to rediscover their game and everything, to get eyes on them. Let's face it, you had scouts last night watching Brenden Aaronson, Mark McKenzie, and the dude for Sporting KC last night, but they're going to notice Jamir Montero. They're going to notice Kai Wagner, see how much better these guys were than when they were playing in Europe and everything. And so as much as it sucks when people say, oh, why are we selling our best players and everything, we always knew this was going to happen, because you know what? You sell them, and then you bring in more players, and then those players that aren't kicking in Europe and everything, these young players are like, man, I'm not going to get a chance at another team in Europe. Let me go to MLS, Philadelphia Union. They've done great to Kai Wagner, to Kasper Schebelko. And so I can kickstart my career at this club and everything and get another chance at Europe. And I think that's just a great way that Ernst Tanner goes about it. Yeah,
and until we do, it's theoretical. And that's why I think my opinion, they won't be too much of a stickler about that price, because just that the point of selling is really important to them for that whole narrative that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
So they're not going to give him away, and Ernst seems like a very shrewd negotiator to me. I saw how he dealt with like Ilsinho and how he dealt with the Jamiro deal. He's a pretty sharp dude, and I have full confidence in him to handle this particular situation.
After losing like a couple of years there, they lose whoever they lost Dodgeball.
Yeah.
And this year they were able to keep Montero, which everybody kind of thought that was going to be Dodgeball again. He's going to have a good year, then he's going to go back to Europe.
Yeah.
But they were able to swing some of that money and keep him here, and that's a big statement from them too. And so they're investing in the senior. They are investing in the senior team slowly, and part, like you said, part of their whole marketing thing is they are going to sell homegrown players, but that makes the cash pool bigger to keep guys like Montero around.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Taylor Twellman hit the nail right on the head yesterday where he said, the Union, we all know they're not going to sign a big superstar player. It's just not going to happen. Yes, I guess Marco Fabian's a superstar and everything, but he's no Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's no Carlos Vela, so on and everything. What makes the Union great is they play as a team. You look at all these teams in MLS where they bring in this big superstar. Look at Inter Miami. They bring in a big superstar and everything, and they're having a terrible season. They've started off, I think, the worst ever for an expansion team and everything. And it's like the Union are built around a team, not individuals and everything. They buy into a system, and that's what makes them so good. And you saw it in the Ale Bedoya goal from the build-up from Sergio Santos. Bedoya makes that great run and everything, which I know you and I, Ed, were talking about that. I mean, it seems like Bedoya makes that run.
That cutting run, yeah.
At least once a game. And we saw it last year against Dallas where no, Ale Bedoya didn't square the ball up. He took the shot and got the game-winning goal and everything. And, that's what I love Bedoya. He's so clever and everything. And, I teams have to be watching this in film and everything. Like, look, Bedoya makes this run at least once a game, not at the same time and everything. It's like you should know that run always comes, but yet teams always fall asleep to it.
I think they thought he was offside on that play, too. He timed it perfectly. If you watch it again, he was on, but he's perfectly level, and then he makes that break, and then he's just in space and can pass it over. But, yeah, sitting in the opposite end from the river end when the Union would attack down there, and I guess his first couple of years, maybe more when Union was there, because I didn't have tickets last year. I just was all over the stadium. But I started to see that he's a very right-sided player, even though they play him as a center mid. He's right center mid. And he'll always look to it. He'll defend and make tackles, but he'll always look to be that extra attacker, especially with they'll just keep Ray back. Ray's not always going to make that overlap. They'll keep him back and let Bedoya step up. And when he can time it perfectly like that, and somebody sees it and gets the ball to him, he's in space to do whatever. Like you said, he scores the goal in the one game. He makes the assist in this game, and he has the IQ to make that last second call. He's real quick that way.
Yeah, for sure. He's a real pro, and that's the other thing I was thinking when you were talking, making that commitment to Montero, having somebody like Bedoya, just having veterans around, also makes it possible to bring up a guy like Aaronson. He's well mentored on the team. Now, of course, he has to produce. They're not just going to prop him up, but it's not as scary a proposition to have a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old out there when you have somebody like he's playing right next to Jamiro Montero. Yeah, I really like the way this team is constructed, and that's the reason why I thought going into this tournament that the Union were really in a good spot, because we have a good team. We don't have those malcontents that we're not going to do well in a bubble situation. It's a good group of guys under good leadership, and we see the results. They're getting better as they go, amazingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Mac and Dazik on Sons of Ben the Pod says all the time, like, there's nobody on this team that you hate. Every one of these guys you want to see succeed. It's just a great group of guys that you want to cheer for. It doesn't matter if it's Colin who's on the bench every game. It doesn't matter if it's Sergio Santos who gets subbed out at the 60th minute. All these guys have a great personality. They're all playing for each other. It's not, I'm playing for myself so I can go to Europe, or I'm playing for myself because I want to be the Golden Boot winner. Kasper Schmeichel, I believe, said it last year in an interview where he said, my thing, yes, I'm a striker and I like scoring goals, but if the team wins, I'm happy because it's the team. If I score a goal, great. But my job is to help the team win, whether that's assisting, whether that's scoring, whether that's just holding up the ball and everything. And let's face it, Casper hasn't had the best of tournaments and everything. I think he has one goal. He hasn't had the best of season and everything. And he's played every single minute minus when he got subbed out for Andrew Vutin at the 71st minute and everything. But it's like that's a mentality that this whole team has, I feel like. And yeah, Casper's the one who said it and everything, but you can just tell that's the mentality of this whole team. And people aren't being selfish. People are just looking out how they can win the best as a team.
And I think there's a culture there too, and I think Rich touched on it a little bit. Like they've never even with Freddie Adu, like once he acted up, he sat for maybe half of a year. Kleberson sat after that. Got certain guys that if they don't buy in, even in the Hackworth time, you're sitting. And this is they're a team. They've always been team first. And they don't buy star players, but in this league now, you still have to pay a few guys a couple million to compete. Your Bedoyas and your Monteros, but those guys are just they're well found veteran leaders that do everything the right way. They run a team the way it should be run, even as players. And that culture, it all just seeps together, and they all play for, and it results in them all playing for each other and buying in with the coach.
Yeah, and there's a whole list over the years of players, like you just said, Ed, that you heard whispers about, or even more than whispers about, how they just weren't team guys, and they're all gone. I mean, they like you said,
we were talking about Rosenberry on Twitter last night. He yapped on Twitter. He was gone.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff behind the scenes with him, and a lot of times we don't hear about that stuff until way after the fact. But I think a lot of that type of stuff answers a lot of the questions we've had over the years. Like, whatever happened with that? Whatever happened with that guy? Whatever happened? That guy seemed so good, and he never played. Like, what was the deal with him? I mean, I don't even want to throw out names, but we've had several of them over the years. And you're right, Todd. There's not one player on that whole roster now that I don't like, and that's the first year that's ever been the case. I've always had that one or two guys like that. I'm like, I just don't like that guy. He's just not my kind of player, and I wish they would get rid of him. And Ernst, almost without fail, has gotten rid of the right people. I'll leave it at that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, just look at the players that came back for this season compared to last season. That's all you need to know and everything. But, like I said earlier, I'm mostly on Twitter. I'll read on Reddit occasionally and everything. And so I don't know what you guys think and everything. And I want to get your thoughts and everything. Just, do you think this team right now through 7 games is better than the team was last season? Now, granted, it's only 7 games, but...
better than last year. I think they're a better team than last year. I think I'm just so impressed by their passing lately. It's just unbelievable, like just right up the field. And their counterattack has been just deadly. Santos is hot. Yeah, I'd say they're better. They're better. And very importantly, Blake is as good as he's ever been right now. And they're a better team than they were good last year, but they're better this year, I think.
I'll say this. I agree with a lot of that, but they did lose some pieces. I think you lost a lot with Harris Medunian, and
sure.
Just in terms of just a guaranteed set piece taker. He can take a free kick from the top of the box, and if he doesn't make it, it's going to be close. I think they're trying that with Montero. They haven't been great on corners. There's a few little things with a few players that Marco Fabian didn't play a lot, but he had a big goal in that last game, and it brought different people to the stadium and stuff. I think there were some positives there, and they lost a few things, but I think they've really – I don't know if it's coaching because they have a lot of the same guys there, but I think the defense has really locked down. Blake is just playing out of his mind, which I think Blake might be the biggest 180 difference with this team versus last year in terms of goals and everything.
Yeah,
he's facing a lot of shots. Shots doesn't always look good for like XG or whatever that is, but he's making the saves. And one goal last night, which was like a header from right next to him, he didn't really have a chance at it. But other than that, has another solid game. He's been on Team of the Week a couple times now. If the Union go on, I'm not going to jinx him yet, but if they go on deep into this, he could be a candidate for player of the tournament for me, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So the comment that I'm specifically talking about, here's the quote. It said, "Tonight, they legitimately outplayed Sporting Kansas City until going up 3-0. So that's something. But the team definitely feels worse than last year, which makes sense given the offseason losses and lack of acquisitions." Like, I respect, you're entitled to your opinion, but I strongly disagree because every single player on this team has gotten better than they were at the end of last season. Why is that? Because they have a full year of playing with each other. They have a full year of playing under each other and everything. Like you said, all the coaching staff's the same and everything. And let's look. Brenden Aaronson, 10 times better than he was last season. He's put on muscle and everything looks faster. He feels confident when he's shooting the ball where, at times last season, you're like, oh, shoot the ball. You're in a great position. And he lays the ball off and everything. His decision-making is so much better. You brought up Sergio Santos, Rich. He's fast. He's staying healthy and everything. His touch has gotten a lot better. He's looking for that goal that set up Jameer Montero. He knew that run from Ale Bedoya was coming and everything. His hold-up play, in my opinion, has got so much better than it was. Not a single person on this team that was here last season has got worse. Everybody, in my opinion, has got better. And the stats, if you look at the first 7 games from last season, it backs it up. Against Toronto, the Union lost 3-1. Against Sporting Kansas City, they lost 2-0. Against Atlanta United, Brenden Aaronson scores in his debut. They draw 1-1. Against Columbus Crew, the Union win 3-1. Cincinnati, the Union win 2-0. Against Dallas, they win 2-1 thanks to Bedoya, like we mentioned a couple of times. And then LA Galaxy, they lost 2-0. So if you add that up, that's 1.4 goals given up in those 7 games. 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. And they averaged not even a goal a game, so 0.8 in those 7 games. And if you look at the first 7 games this season, against Dallas, they lost 2-0. Against LAFC, they drew 3-3. Against New York City, they won 1-0. Against Inter Miami, they won 2-1. Against Orlando City, they drew 1-1. Against New England, they won 1-0. And then against Sporting Kansas City, they won 3-1. And if in those 7 games, that is a lot better defensively. They're not even giving up a goal a game in those 7 games. It's 0.8 goals. The defense, just looking at those first 7 stats, the defense, you can tell. If you didn't watch it, it says on paper. And in my opinion, the first 7 games that the Union have played this season compared to last are a lot tougher than the first 7 games last season. I mean, look at LAFC, the best team in the league. The Union went head-to-head with them, 3-3. They were up, I think, 2 times, maybe 3 times in that game. I can't remember. It's been since March and everything. And then they've won 4 games, lost once, 1 game, the first game of the season, and they have 2 draws. The Union are in great form right now. That's on a 6-game unbeaten streak. And I don't want to jinx them, like you said, Ed, and everything. But just looking at stats alone, the team looks so much better. They're averaging 1.1 goals scored in those 7 games. So right there in the 7 games this season compared to last season, the offense looks better. Granted, Casper's not scoring as much as he did last season, but hey, it's only 7 games, and I think Casper got a late start last season. He didn't start right away. And the defense, like you said, Rich, Andre Blake has been phenomenal. And that's a big reason why the Union have got as far as they have. But not only that, Jack Elliott, Mark McKenzie, Kai Wagner, Ray Gaddis, they just seem to understand each other a lot better than they did last season.
Yeah.
I think Mark McKenzie's an interesting one because last year it was really it was almost an every week up to the minute call if it was going to be him or Trusty with Curtin or both of them and leaving out Elliott. And once, maybe it was about halfway through the year last year, they started playing McKenzie every week, and he was just locked down. And I think he's even gotten better this year, yeah, the whole defense just looks locked down right now.
And I think Ed's right. The deficiencies Ed mentioned are that's accurate. I mean, you do lose something with Harris, and especially we are terrible in corners and just in dead ball situations. We don't really. They're still trying to find that guy. It used to just be aim for Jack's head on the back post, and then good things might happen. Now it's just I don't know what they're doing now.
They don't have that.
My point was, Todd, had a lot of stats to back that up, but overall, I think it's a better team. Yeah, of course, there's issues. There's pluses and minuses. I tell you what would make this team really dangerous is a Corey Burke coming off the bench with a chip on his shoulder. My goodness. But maybe who knows what's going to happen here after this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Ed. I mean, not having Harris Mandunian on corner kicks, on set pieces. Let's face it, Jameer Montero is a great player, but he's not a great set piece taker and everything. That's why the Union have went short a lot more times than they have sending the ball in the box, because, at least they have the chance to make something happen if they go short, as opposed to just, like you said, Rich, lobbing into Jack Elliott, hoping he gets ahead to it. But, minus that, everybody seems to get better. Yes, that's a big deal, not having somebody good on set pieces and everything, but this team, they're so much better scoring from open play than they were last season, in my opinion.
Yeah, we really relied upon the changeup of Ilinsho coming in a lot last year. A lot of those games, Aaronson started or Fafa was in there, and we were just kind of stuck in a rut until about the 55th, 60th minute. They bring in Ilinsho, the left back of the other team puckers up, and then the game changes dramatically. That hasn't really been the case this year at all, really, and we haven't had to rely upon it either. So it's different. There's a whole different dynamic. But yeah, this team just continuously impresses me. Yeah,
you're not relying on Ilinsho to come off the bench and everything, go at tired legs and everything. Now, granted, maybe he's struggling with the heat and everything down in Orlando. I can accept that and everything, but it's like the Union, they're not relying on him. Let's feed Ilinsho the ball. Let's force him the ball and everything. It's like, we know we have good players that it doesn't need to just be Ilinsho and everything. And that's a big takeaway from me. You can tell that they trust each other, not, okay, well, we couldn't score for 60 minutes. Well, we'll definitely get a chance by Ilinsho. Ilinsho is a great sub. We all know that, but it hasn't worked out so far this season, and they're finding ways to win with not involving Ilinsho as much.
Yeah, it was interesting yesterday because they brought in like attacking subs, and like he came in like the pretty early for him, like maybe 50 something minute, and there was just no they brought in Wooten, like you said. There's not a lot of attacking urgency in that second half. I think they're content to just keep the ball. So you didn't really get to see, they just didn't have to rely on Ilinsho to do that because they'd already had that first half. Now, it's good for him to get out there and play, but he didn't have that. They're playing possession ball at that point, and he didn't really have to fake three guys out and do anything. He just had to kind of go out there and play. But
drew some fouls. That was good.
Yeah, definitely. And they really, I think they're really annoying Sporting by the end of that game. They were just taking hacky fouls pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ilinsho played a great ball into Brenden Aaronson, who, he was at a weird angle to shoot, and then he tries to square the ball to Casper, and Casper can't get the ball out between his feet. So, I mean, there were moments that Ilinsho did play some great balls and everything, but we just didn't need to rely on him. Like you said, Sporting Kansas City were getting pissed.
I don't really understand the thought, and I didn't understand at the time, and I still don't really understand. Hopefully someone can explain this, maybe on Twitter or maybe one of you two guys. Even what the thought is behind bringing Ilinsho in there. It just strikes me so odd. It's like the opposite of, why are they bringing him in there? It seems to me like young leg, because there is a defensive cost to having him in there. There just is. I mean, especially running towards his own goal, he's behind it, and especially when you're trying to protect the lead, it struck me so strange. And it didn't cost us yesterday, but it has before. I mean, I've seen it in games before. It happens.
Well, I think one problem yesterday, not really a problem, but they had Creval questionable with something with a knock. He's like an automatic he would have been that Ilinsho sub probably just to lock that down. And Orovech, I don't know what he has to do to play.
He's just nowhere. He should have had him might as well just had him back in play for the Union too.
Union 2 could really use him right now.
Oh my goodness.
They're playing how many 16-year-olds are playing for Union 2 right now?
Yeah, boys against men, they're getting killed.
Yeah. And that Ilinsho sub was in the 53rd minute. So, I mean, I think that's the earliest we've seen Ilinsho come in. And he's usually 65th and everything. I don't know. I mean, Sergio looked good and everything. I don't know if that was just Jim wanting to protect him. Because
I think he took a knock. Yeah, I think he took a knock and he just took him right out.
Actually, he said he was a little sick, actually, is what he said. He said he was from the heat.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
And you brought up a good point, Ed. You said, Jim Curtin used he used 4 subs as opposed to his 2 or 3 standard. I think that was a total troll move by Jim Curtin because Anthony Fontana and Matt Riel came in at the 86th minute. And, we know Jim Curtin has a burner account on Twitter. We know that he reads people's comments and everything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he put out Matt Riel and Anthony Fontana just look, we know we have this game in the bag and everything. Look, you guys have been complaining that I'm not using more than 3 subs. Look, I'll throw on Matt Real and Anthony Fontana. There's 4 subs, but I'm not going to 5 quite yet. So I think Jim Curtin was like, you guys, this should shut you guys up for at least one game and everything. Look, I used 4, not 3 subs.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with them when a winning effort like that, but like I just don't understand why you don't put Fontana in there instead of Ilinsho or something. Like I just see the value in a game like that of fresh young legs that can run, And that's the thing about Wooten that kind of annoyed me a little bit. Man, you're subbing a guy like him on who hasn't played. He's trying to make his mark. Man, run that stuff down. Like put some effort out there. And it's not that he was being lazy. He was just playing like a striker, like trying to conserve his energy. And that's not what he was subbed in for. He should have been, causing a little pressure on that end, and he just wasn't. I mean, it was a pretty pedestrian effort, I thought.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more from him for sure. But in that kind of game, it's tough to gauge that kind of game. It's not like they're trying to come back either.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see. I was kind of excited that he was getting subbed in, and he just didn't really do much. He didn't get the ball a whole lot either.
Yeah, he didn't. I think he won 1 header and everything. I'm not looking at it right now, but. I would have loved to have seen Galena going, a young kid who's super duper fast and everything. You could tell that Sporting Kansas City were getting tired and everything. I knew the Wooten sub was coming and everything, but we all knew Casper didn't have the best of game. And so we knew that Casper was going to get subbed off. So I was like, this is a perfect chance to put on Galena. But then Wooten comes on. I'm like, okay, this makes sense and everything. And going back to El Senior to replace Sergio Santos. Yeah, I mean, definitely confusing. You could have put on Andrew Wooten there. You could have put on Fontana, switch up the formation completely, like you said, Rich. But, you can't complain when, it's working and everything. So
we're nitpicking,
Yeah, we're getting into like the only it's hard to hyperanalyze a 3-1 win after the first half,
Yeah, they really did take their foot off the gas, and that's what made it so stressful. But it looked to me like you said, the one time Aaronson had a good opportunity, and he sort of squared it instead of going for it. Like I feel like in the first half that wouldn't have went that way. It seemed like the whole team had all right, let's not lose possession. Let's just keep everything in front of us, and for the most part they did. It's just frustrating to watch. I would like that game to have been 7-1. I'm always wanting to keep their foot on the gas.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Brenden Aaronson, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that was his best game of the season and everything. I mean, LAFC, that game, that's probably up there too, but this kid just doesn't get tired. This kid's always running, and he had to have known that scouts were watching this game and everything, and if there was a time to impress, it was definitely in this game. Like I said earlier, that movement to open himself up, to play that beautiful ball to Sergio Santos. Have no clue how he saw him. It's like you knew Jameer was there, but he was kind of blocked out. But as a good number 10, they're aware of everything around them and everything. And just Aaronson couldn't have threaded that ball any better than he did.
No, and great players come up big in big moments. And before the game, that's one. I was like, man, I wish they weren't talking about this Europe stuff so much. It's going to get to these guys' heads, and I hope that they don't have that. Doesn't put the jinx on them. And have them shrink, because that does happen with players. They all that's talking, and then maybe they're a little more conservative, or they don't want to make a mistake and look foolish in front of the scouts. Aaronson doesn't seem bothered at all. In fact, like you said, I think that was his best game ever. Honestly, really rose to the occasion.
I think if anything, it's almost raising him a level a little bit. I think he's getting some confidence. Not that he didn't have it going into the season. I think, like you said earlier, he's been lifting weights. He's been working out. He's done everything to improve himself in the off season. He plays the system perfectly, and for a 19-year-old, his soccer IQ when he has the ball, or when he's making a move, or when he's making a run, is it's on a different level. And I think he's even raising through this tournament. I think he's almost raising his level. He's raising to this other level where he doesn't even look like he fits in with MLS players sometimes, because everybody just kind of looks scared of him, or what's he going to do now? What's he going to do here? Or they just don't see it coming. That through pass across the field like that, the defense didn't even see it. He's in behind before anybody even knows the ball's there.
Yeah, that's a look you see all the time by watching European soccer and everything. You see these European players make that pass all the time and everything. And, another Andre Blake, he gets a lot of stick for his distribution, and granted, it is not the best and everything, but Andre Blake pulled out his inner Ederson, played a great ball down to Aaronson, and Aaronson goes one-on-one with Martinez and almost scores a goal to put the Union up 3-0, and everything goes really, really close and everything, but he does a couple of stepovers and everything, and just moving his feet, and opens up enough space for him to get the shot off and everything. Like, this is a kid playing with so much confidence, and like I said, he had to have known that scouts were watching and everything. And if you were going to impress, this was the game you wanted to do it, and he delivered.
And last year you could see that he had the talent last year. I thought last year he was a little bit, that speed of thought of, I see the pass, I'm going to make the pass. There was a little delay that it just went away. So many times you could see that he had the thought. It was just a little too slow. And also he was smaller, of course, so he was getting bodied a lot. But this year it's 100% confidence, I think. And like Jim talked about, he needed to make himself more goal dangerous, is the term he used, and that's exactly what he's done this year. I mean, he's a terror out there, and these MLS defenses they're watching film on him for sure, trying to figure out they can't wait for him to go overseas.
I think he had Ilinsho confidence on that play that Todd you were just talking about, that one that I think the goalkeeper might have gotten a piece to it, but it just missed. That one where he's one-on-one with that guy and he's shaking him a little bit. Yeah. He looked real good on the ball there. I mean, if he can more of those situations, they're not going to know what to do with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all three of us can agree, and the listeners listening as well. I mean, it's no doubt that Sergio Santos was the player of the game with the 2 goals and everything. But I think a close second, Andre Blake. I said it last week on the podcast. We've just come to expect this. It's the 2016 Andre Blake all over again, maybe a little bit better and everything. And so he's saving our butts by making good saves and everything. But I tell you what, El Brujo, man, he got a early yellow card. This guy was just phenomenal. It's like, okay, great. He got an early yellow card. It's like, please don't make a stupid foul and everything. And he was so composed, he timed his tackles and everything. It's like, okay, great. I got a yellow card that probably shouldn't have been a yellow card, but it was, I think at the time, the Union's 8th foul and everything. So it's like the ref had to give it and everything just to get control of the game. But this guy, I was like, okay, like you said, Ed, not having Warren, that probably would have been the substitution, maybe around halftime or something, but he went the whole game without committing another foul and everything. This guy was so smart and everything, and his passing, like Ernst Tanner said, Urvac is going to be the starter more than likely. Martinez, he's going to be the project, and it's been anything but that.
Yeah.
Like this guy is playing in a weaker league than, in my opinion, than the Slovakian league, because granted, not a lot of players come out of Venezuela, but they're starting to. And El Brujo, after that yellow card, he just had himself a game. I mean, he had 42 passes and everything. His passing, I've been so impressed with. It's not at Harris's level, but like it's a lot better than I was expecting, because the hype around him was he's fast, he's aggressive, his passing could use some work, but his passing is not hurting him at all.
In a game when he's up like that and he can take fouls late in the game too and get a little chippy with the other team and he doesn't get carded, he's just invaluable. And that, I love that bicycle kick clear that he had.
Yeah, me too.
It just bounces to him and he just does a full flip and you see the ball just trickles out right at the half line. But it was like a perfect clear out of like nowhere, out of like a bounce that ended up to him. That could have been rebounded to an attacking player, one pass away from a goal. Instead, that's cleared out to the half line. I mean,
I thought, like Todd said, I thought we were getting a very raw, unguided missile defensive midfielder that hopefully they could rein in. But boy, that is not the case at all. He's really composed, actually. It seems like there's chaos around him, but it isn't, because he always makes that right pass. And he's a real defensive force. That's what I'm wondering. Like, we lost a lot with Harris, but there was a downside to Harris for sure. Cincinnati's been seeing that quite a bit too. But the passing is not as good. But boy, are we getting a lot defensively. Like, so I think that position is an overall upgrade right now. And
you can still get long passes out of other guys. You have other guys.
Yeah, Jack can make that pass.
He does. Yep, all the time. I mean, this guy doesn't get tired. It's like he's running full sprint from the first minute till they blow the whistle and everything. And I said on Twitter, everybody's going to be buying this Martinez jersey, which honestly, I'm not going to buy the home kit. I'm not a fan of it. And so I'll probably get the white kit. But I was waiting for the longest time. Like, Cole Turner's from Churchville. I'm from Maryland. That we're about 15 minutes away from each other and everything. Got to support the local kid and everything. So Union, if you guys want to supply that free jersey or something, and then I'll go pay for the El Brujo jersey. But like this guy's been so much better than what he was advertised than we were getting. And it's only a matter of time before he gets caught up to the full national team for Venezuela.
Oh yeah, if he's not, they got to look at him.
It's a miss. Yeah, he's so big too. He's pretty big too, and oh my goodness, so many times I was expecting, like, it was like a harried situation. I was expecting maybe even a turnover, and he just made somehow he picked out the right pass, little outlet pass. It's so impressive because it's like a bad situation. It's like, oh, it's fine. All because of him specifically. And he was all over the place too. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if we want to nitpick bad moments, it would be, I mean, the goal the Union gave up to Polito, where I think it was McKenzie and Gaddis. I think they were ball watching. You know, they say in soccer the 3-0 lead's the worst lead in soccer and everything, because you see it all the time. You know, teams blow that 3-0 lead. They just get too comfortable. And I was like, oh, God, we give up a goal right before halftime and everything because we got caught ball watching. And credit to the Union, you know, they let that one go. Probably should have been better marking and everything.
Call though for him,
exactly, and that's what they needed. Maybe, you know, it's like Jim's like, okay, look, guys, you guys were up 3-0. Now you guys are up 3-1, only a 2-goal lead and everything. You guys can't blow this. You can't get comfortable with this lead. You guys still got to keep your foot on the pedal and everything. And the Union did get lucky where Johnny Russell, you know, put the moves on Kai Wagner, which doesn't happen often, and plays the ball into Polito, who Andre Blake makes a great save with his legs, I believe it was, and then the ball falls to Russell, who puts it in the back of the net, and the Union escape one there. But, you know, for the most part, there's nothing to complain about this team. I know Jim keeps saying in his press conferences, it wasn't a complete 90. It's not our best game yet, which we can all see that and everything, because 2 out of 3 goals for the Union came on Sporting Kansas City attacking set pieces and everything, which is credit to the Union. I mean, so many people I didn't see talking about this. Ray Gaddis' header that calls the air by Martinez, big right there. The goal where Sergio Santos got his brace and everything. Jack Elliott headed the ball out beautifully. These guys are winning the 50-50 balls, and 50-50 balls go such a big way in winning games. I'm sure, you know, if any of the listeners played soccer growing up and everything, something that coaches always grind in your head is win the 50-50 balls, be the first of the 50-50 balls. And look, 2 out of 3 goals that the Union scored came by winning those 50-50 balls last night.
Especially a team that's as good in transition as we are. I mean, my goodness, when Santos, he was halfway. He wasn't even ahead of the defender yet, and that play was over in my mind. Honestly, there was no way anybody was catching him. I've seen it. He's fast, real fast.
Yeah, fast.
And it was just a matter of was he going to be able to finish or not. And Santos that hot, he's going to finish him.
And he's finished it with his right foot, which is his weaker foot. I was like, I don't know how much to trust this, but he dinks the ball beautifully and everything. And it's a guy playing with full confidence and everything. And we saw a glimpse of it last season where this guy has a lot of pace and everything. He's not the full, complete product and everything, but you could see the potential. And, you know, the more and more he's out there along with his teammates and everything, we've got a real treat. And now you add, if Casper can get back to his scoring ways, this could be the best scoring duo in MLS and everything, these 2 strikers and everything. And the Union didn't spend DP money on these 2 strikers.
Yeah, and I think their counterattack right now is really clicking. They scored on, it was 2 of their corners, right? And
free kick and then a corner.
I think that, and even that one against, what was the one that Shabilko scored on? Which game? I forget which game that was, but it was like a really good counter. Him, Aaronson, and Montero. Was it the one with Montero dummies 2 guys? And it's like a 3-on-1 or a 3-on-2. So Santos wasn't even in that one. So when they can get like these really fast counters and get him like right at the top of the key, like that half line, just onside, he can break out and end up 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. Like they can really create a lot with that, create numbers advantages. And if you're taking a corner against the Union, I hope you're watching film and keeping a few more guys back now.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody fast.
That play you were talking about, Ed, that was against Inter Miami.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was the one with the famous drone shot. Everybody that went all around the whole country.
I had to watch it 10 times. It was great.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say about this team and everything is like, we said earlier, the defense is so much better and everything. They're playing full of confidence, and you could tell they were making Sporting Kansas City frustrated because I was watching the game on lunch and everything, and it's like we forced a lot of bad shots by Sporting Kansas City because we weren't giving them any space. We were doing a really good job of marking Polito, who's the best player and everything. We really took him out of the game, and we did the same thing against Carlos Vela earlier in the season and everything. I think Jim Curtin, like you guys said, the coaching staff, I mean, they've ingrained into these players like, this is your job and everything, don't mess it up, and the players are doing an excellent job just paying attention to their assignment and just holding a strong defensive line.
I don't know if it's a current thing or a Union thing, but they've been good, especially with Gaddis. They can just take out a guy. Like if the team has a 1-star player they're good at taking that guy out and making you beat them with the other guy. And that's, I think that philosophy plays into them not buying a star player sometimes too, because they know if we don't have enough cap invested in the rest of the team, they can just take away our star player and then we don't have anything. So I think they've always been good at zeroing in on the guy that they think can beat them and taking that guy away. And I think you also have to look at Vermees, and you were talking about it on the preview podcast, and I was kind of saying it last night. Last night would have been the perfect game for a national team veteran center back against all those counters, or maybe just to organize the back line, but they were playing the hot hand. And the KC guy you had on, I forget his name now, but
Andy Edwards.
He was kind of for me. He's like, hey, let's ride this hot center back out there, selling Beasler, but it worked out. And they gave up 2 goals in each game with Beasler, and then they kind of shut down. But yeah, it looked like they probably could have used Beasler last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we get close to wrapping up this podcast and everything, I'll do listener questions, Blunder of the week, and then we'll wrap this sucker up and everything. So I'll start with my question I asked on Twitter last night. So as I am a newer Union fan compared to most people, I said, oh yeah, Union fans, are we considering this revenge for the 2015 U.S. Open Cup loss against Sporting Kansas City? Only 14 people voted and everything, so not a ton to go off of, but 64.3% said yes, 35.7% said no. So as you two guys have been fans of the team since they first started and everything, do you guys consider this revenge or not?
I voted yes. It felt good. It felt really good. If Vermees wasn't still coaching there, it wouldn't have felt the same. But since he's still there, and to see him screaming at the refs and pissed off on the sideline, it made me feel better. It made me feel a little bit better about this.
Yeah, agreed. It's like we're turning the page on the history here a little bit. Bruce Arena has been vanquished, Peter Vermees vanquished, and exercising some of those old demons specifically. I'm intimidated by good coaches when we play them. I always am. I give them too much credit, I think, or maybe I don't give our own team enough credit. But Tim is clearly a very good coach, and it's a different Union, and there's the days of old are gone, and just our success in general kind of has been helping exercise the demons of those, like for example that KC game. But yeah, it's great to see Peter Vermees so pissed off. Oh my goodness, that just warms my heart.
Absolutely. And then the only listener question we got in this week comes to a friend of the pod, Pat Andrews, at Pat_in_the_hat. He had 2 questions. So first he says, has the series restored faith in Gaddis, or do we still need a replacement? So whichever one of you guys want to take that question first, go for it.
I'll go first. There's a lot of faith in Gaddis. He's a shutdown right back. He's not gonna stream up, and he's not gonna be Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's not gonna take free kicks. He's not gonna stream up the sideline and score a bunch of goals. But he's a lockdown defender. He's a class guy. He's the longest tenured guy they've ever had. He's one of those perfect locker room guys. And one day somebody's gonna outplay him for that position. But until that happens, they gave up a lot of goals last year. If he can be shut down, then you have to play him. And I don't have I think there might have been an urgency to replacing him at a certain time. I think they wanted to see the young guy.
Mbaizo.
Everybody wanted to see him, even me. But I think right now, I'm cool with Gaddis. I'm cool with the 4 that they're playing right now. And until there's reason to take him out, I'm cool with him in there.
Rich?
Yeah, I think the cohesion of the back line is a bigger positive for us than maybe a more offensive-minded right back. And, Ray Gaddis, we've talked about getting rid of him every single year. But I think the team is so much better that we don't have that need for the killer right back bombing forwards. I'm all in. I think we should definitely keep him until somebody beats him.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you guys as well. Ray Gaddis gets a lot of stick for not going forward often and everything, not being a great attacking right back and everything. And Nate Harrell, who I mentioned earlier and everything. There's a guy who has a lot of speed and everything. He's went forward quite often and successfully last season for Bethlehem Steel, now U2. So I think that's, odds are that's probably going to be the guy who takes Ray Gaddis' spot. But for a couple years and everything, I think if Ray Gaddis still plays as well as he has and everything, it's his spot to lose and everything. And Jim Curtin talks about it all the time. He's so well defensively. You said it, Ed. He's so good defensively. Like, he knows his job. He knows where he needs to be. And he, for the most part, shuts down anybody that tries to attack down that side. Yes, we could all hope that he could attack more and everything. And he did attack really well last night, in my opinion.
Last night he had a really good passing game, it seemed like.
Yeah, he made a really, really good run to distract a couple defenders and everything. The left winger didn't follow Bedoya. Bedoya makes that run unmarked and everything. Sergio Santos finds him unmarked and everything. And that all started with Ray Gaddis. He had a couple really good killer passes last night and everything. I mean, like you guys said, just both backs are playing really, really good, Kai Wagner and Ray Gaddis. And, yes, this tournament, for some people that said, Ray Gaddis out and everything, are probably a little bit more quiet now because, Ray Gaddis hasn't killed this team and everything, and he's doing his job well.
I think some people hold on to a narrative, and it takes forever to get rid of it. Like, you can look and say, well, whatever you're going to say about him, but it doesn't matter. If they decided that he's got to go, a lot of people are just going to, but really, if you pick, like, what one position on our team could we upgrade? Most people would, people would throw out a right back, but, I think
you could, but I think it's such a unique situation.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he's an average right back, but he's not any average right back. He's the average right back that's been here for a million years. And he's like a locker room leader and a team leader and all these other things. So there's a lot of intangible there that doesn't show up on paper, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I dismissed a lot of that stuff, but I see now how just familiarity, really. I mean, they know Bedoya, when he bombs forwards, he knows where Ray's going to be. He can trust that he's going to be there. And it just makes everything work,
Yeah, and so Pat's last question was, and this kind of ties into my blunder of the week, it's the Union are having great success, but is this team being hurt by not being able to have large watch parties in the city? And I think a couple weeks ago, Rich, you said something about, the Union should open a team store in Center City and everything and draw more people in and everything. So you could tie both of those together and everything. So is it hurting the team just not having that great of a presence in Center City itself?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to start another podcast for this discussion, but that wasn't like a unique idea out of my brain. I mean, that's been tossed around for a while, but I think it's unfortunate because the kind of success we're having. Just look at the playoff game last year with the what was it, the playoff? Yeah, the Atlanta game. The crowds that were at Yards and the crowds that were at the other various viewing parties. I couldn't believe it. Like, honestly, I was expecting like maybe 30 people. And I couldn't even get in the Yards. I was there pretty early and I still couldn't get in. It's amazing. Like, Philadelphia loves a winner. And when things are going well, the city loves getting behind that. We love it. And it is the fact that this tournament, we can't have these big parties. I think it hurts them. Now, as far as a Center City presence, I mean, I think most people would agree that's a decent idea. They don't even open their store, except for during events at the stadium. I don't know. I think that's a missed opportunity. Now they have to pay a staff and rent, all that stuff. I think that's the kind of stuff that could happen when we start bringing in more money, though.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
And I think it's a bummer about the virus because I think at the stadium they're having these viewing parties and they look like a blast. But they could fill that. They could probably fill that place if it wasn't for this. They just have everybody there watching the game. They'd have everybody there watching that new screen. They got that new screen up. I think they could fill like half the seats.
Well, we'd all be there in person. If there wasn't a virus, there would be no tournament down in Orlando. So,
yeah,
the thing is,
it all kind of works together. But
the thing is, though, I learned from those viewing parties that they could safely have fans there, a certain number of fans. Now, there had to be a drawing or something, of course, because a lot of people would want to go. But, a couple hundred people, 500 people, you could spread them out pretty good in there. I don't know, it would be pretty time-consuming to take everyone's temperature and all that. But if you have 500 people with masks on, you could certainly watch a game. I hope they figure something like that out.
Yeah, and so, like I said, Pat's last question kind of ties into my blunder of the week because this week's blunder of the week is going to go to the fans that still won't support this team because they don't play in Philadelphia. So if you're a fan who's complaining, the Philadelphia Union or the Chester Union, you get my blunder of the week. I'm sure. We hear this all the time, and just reading opposing fans on Twitter say, "Oh, well, they'd get my respect if they were in Philadelphia, but they're not." So it's like I'm not going to pay attention to them. They might be a good team, but they play in Chester. It's like, what more do you want? Yeah, they play in Chester, but who cares? Like, they're a hot, successful team. They have a strong chance of coming home with some silverware and everything. That's never happened in the history of this franchise. We all know it's been beaten down our throats so many times by other fans, by ourselves in general. But just because they play in Chester, you won't support them. And people aren't even using, "Oh, it's soccer, I won't watch." It's a lot of people now, "Oh, it's because they play in Chester. They're not in Philadelphia, so I'm not going to give them the time of the day." Like, just stop being stuck in your way.
Funny that the New York Giants don't have that problem. There's not a bunch of people going to Jersey and complaining about it. "Oh, we're in Jersey, not really the New York Giants." No, it's sold out every week because they don't care. It's close enough.
Yeah, and I'm to the point where if you're not on board the Union, you're missing out, and you're going to be playing catch up because it's exciting. If you're a fan of the sport, you're really missing out because it's been a great ride. And I honestly don't even care about those people. That's their loss, really. They want to be a fan of a team 6,000 miles away. Have no problem waking up at 9 a.m. to watch that game, but can't support the local team. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
And they're missing out.
Yeah, they're missing out.
They are, yeah. They absolutely are. Like, as most of you guys know, I love Manchester United, but it's like we have a local team that, it feels like a family, feels like a community where the players interact and everything. And it's like, for all these years that I've been a Manchester United supporter, I love them and everything, but the Union have definitely taken number one place in my heart and everything. Just, it's local and everything. And it's like, I don't care where they play. It's like, I make that 50-mile trip every single week whenever they have a home game because I love this team. And, they care about their fans and everything. And whether or not they play in Philadelphia doesn't affect me at all. We've got a great product in our hands, and it shouldn't affect me, right, Rich? And yet it still does and everything. But we can't turn away fans and everything because we're not at the stage where we say, "Oh, no bandwagon fans yet." We're not that big yet,
No.
So we're welcome all the bandwagoners on and everything. But for the people that say, "Oh, yeah, it's not even because it's soccer; it's because they're in Chester," so I'm still not going to support them. Like, get out of here with that.
Yeah, it's really, I'm to the point where I'm like, it's about attraction rather than promotion. I mean, it's obviously a great sport. We love it. The feeling of having your own team local as compared to like Manchester. I'm a Manchester United fan too, and I love when they win. I'm excited, but it's different when the Union score or when the Eagles score, or it's like the same to me. It's like it's a visceral thing, and the tension from last night's game was not like I get watching a European game. It's different, and we get to go to the stadium even. We get to meet the players. We get to meet the coach. I get to go sit on the grass and watch the game. There's so many other things too that are. I mean, being a fan of the Union, even compared to the other Philadelphia sports, the experience is just it's. There's nothing can compare to it.
At this point, I think Chester's a positive in terms of that like game day experience. They have so much more land there. They're able to build their own training facility. They can run the parking lots. They don't have to compete with three other teams in scheduling. They can just schedule it whenever they want to. And like the scenes and the backdrops and everything being on the water and near the bridge, it looks amazing. So anybody that doesn't want to go to Chester to see soccer or whatever we're going to complain about with Chester, you're just doing yourself a disservice. It's quite simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had a blast having both of you guys on. Like I said, I had a feeling we were going to go over, but that's okay. I think we had great conversations and everything. Like I said earlier, this time not coming on, no pressure for having a quiz show and everything. So we just got to talk.
Who won? Who won?
You listeners decide who made the best points tonight. Was it Ed who brought up the best points, or was it Rich? So
I think it was Todd. He had the stats to back it up.
Yeah,
you guys are too kind, but I mean, I had a blast. And for people that have been on the quiz show, or maybe you haven't been on the podcast at all, if you guys want to come on, you guys are more than welcome. I'm definitely going to have you guys on the podcast again. Just talk about a game, preview a game, something like that.
I'm always a DM away for anything. So
likewise. I get pretty surly after a loss, so you might want to skip me. I don't know.
But if the people that haven't listened to either one of you guys on the podcast before, can you remind them where to find you on social media?
I'm Rich_Lori on Twitter, and that's just using my Twitter musings and whatever. I tweet for me. If you don't like it, you don't have to follow. That's my disclaimer.
Okay, I'm at Buzzkill Ed Buzzkill_Ed, Twitter. Same on Instagram. Pat asked about ARS, my sponsor in these podcasts, Brewery ARS. I'm not getting any money, but I'm hoping that they'll give me some free beer out of this. Just kidding. But no, he said to compare them to other Philly breweries or something. It's just a garage brewery a block away from my house. It's nothing crazy. They're able to still can during the virus, but they can't open. So we're trying to keep them in business. I'm just trying to keep a lot. There's a Mexican place over there. I'm trying to keep in business. There's a pizza guy that comes around every week that we're trying to keep in business. We're just trying to keep these places going. So shout out to them for keeping me going. We're keeping them going. We're keeping the podcast going. But at Buzzkill_Ed for soccer thoughts and getting angry at whatever popular thing is going on that day. And I'll make a lot of sarcastic jokes about whatever the popular article is that day.
Absolutely. And if you guys still aren't following the podcast yet, follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, thefreekick.com. And wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. And like I said, I had a blast having you guys on and everything. You guys have been the longest episode I've had in a very, very long time, which is no problem at all and everything. And we had a lot of good discussions and everything. And we're just riding on that high, baby.
Quick. Who do you guys want to play next?
Yeah, I want NYC. I want to beat them again.
Yeah, me too. I'm scared of Portland, to be honest with you, but I do want to beat NYC again.
I don't really like Portland either. I wouldn't mind beating them, but I feel more animosity toward NYFC.
Yeah, so that game will be played on Wednesday on ESPN at 8 p.m. And, I mean, we could start a whole second podcast and go into this and everything. So the Union, they're going to have more rest than either one of these teams, which can play into the Union's hands, which I expect will. These guys are going to be fresher than Portland or New York City players. I'm not a fan of playing a team more than once in a season. I know we do it in a regular season because more times than not, teams split. You see it in every single sport. So I'll say Portland just for that fact. Yes, Portland's a very, very scary team, but we went pretty much head-to-head last season with them in Chester and everything, and I don't see why we can't do it this season. But like I said, again, thank you guys so much for coming onto the podcast.
Yep, thanks for having us.
All right, yeah, thanks Todd for putting it together.
And with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.